Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast to be acknowledged by the tribal chief himself. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Ryan Cummins. What's going on, man?
What's up? How's it going?
Not bad. How are you?
Good, good. Glad we could finally sit down and chat face to face, so to speak.
Face to face, yeah. I'm excited about it too.
Right.
It's going to be awesome. All right, so again, like you mentioned, this is really the first time we've ever had an actual in-person conversation. So I think a good way to kick things off is to do an icebreaker. So this icebreaker is going to be, what's your favorite go-to snack?
Oh, I want it to be something awesome, but it's Reese's every time. Doesn't matter what it is. It's Reese's peanut butter.
Okay. So just anything, nothing specific?
Actually, I could get specific. The little eggs, the little Reese's eggs that come out around Easter time.
Yeah.
Like those. I go to the gas station. Oh, let me grab one. Oh, they're 2 for 2. Oh, let me grab 2 of those. Oh, I'm gonna need one for later. Let me grab another one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and Reese's in general, that's a good one. I think if I was to pick from that family, I think Reese's Pieces is probably my favorite one for sure.
Oh yeah.
Especially, I don't know if you've ever tried them in the freezer. Life changer, man. Life changer.
So I had to switch up because we would go to the movies, right? And it was a bunch of crunch, and you just pour it into your popcorn.
Oh,
well, the theater we go to doesn't carry bunch of crunch anymore, so it's Reese's Pieces in there now. So yeah,
bunch of crunch is so good. But yeah, next time you get Reese's Pieces, try some in the freezer. Change your life.
Oh, I'll do it. Definitely.
I think go-to snack for me, I think Reese's Pieces is one. Chocolate covered peanuts is another one for me. And just recently the Trolley sour gummy worms. Yeah, that's my big one lately. I've been trying to do less chocolate and more fruity, which I guess really doesn't really matter because they're both equally
sugar
for you,
right?
But yeah, so that's kind of where I go to now. So
sometimes, because my kids like hot Cheetos and cream cheese.
Yeah.
And so every now and then I'll sit down with the jalapeno Cheetos. I'm like, I'm just gonna have a couple of these. I'll eat an entire bag in a sitting, like not even realizing it. Like I'm part of the tribe, I guess. So.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, so Fueled by Weird is an idea I came up with where basically, everyone's got stuff they're interested in. Nerdy or not, it doesn't matter. Everyone's got stuff they're interested in, and that's the stuff that fuels what makes you, what fuels your weird. So, what kind of things fuel your weird?
Tends to skew more the nerdy, obviously. But anybody who's passionate about anything, like that just gets me pumped up. I have a buddy who's just really into like cars and motorcycles, and I'm not a car guy at all. Like I like nice cars, but hearing him geek out over like these parts from the other side of the country and they're so great, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like I'm talking about. He's like, want to talk X-Men? He's like, I don't know what that's about. So back and forth. But yeah, it's like anybody who geeks out about anything they love, that inspires me. And that gets me excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't consider myself a car guy either. I mean, my wife knows more about cars than I do. And so I can appreciate that kind of enthusiasm for something you're interested in. Like I have friends who are interested in CB radio, and I am not interested in CB radio. I know nothing about CB radio, but just the fact that they sit and will talk to me about how awesome it is. I think that's I'm with you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I came across your work a couple years ago. We've been friends, like we had mentioned, we've been friends online, but we've never really got to talk to each other. And you have written a lot of books, a lot of comic books. What was it specifically about? What was it that got you into comic books in the first place? Like, what made you decide you wanted to start writing books?
Well, I've been creating books since I was in high school because I was actually an artist when I was young. So I was drawing all my favorite characters. And so I was making comics since little. Like I remember pulling my little crappy desk I had out in front of the TV, and I would sit down and I would draw the cartoons as I was watching them. Like X-Men animated series, Spider-Man. I don't know if you ever saw the Wildcats cartoon.
Oh yeah, dude.
I used to
Yep.
pause it on Grifter and draw Grifter over and over again.
Yep.
Like it was awesome. And then I got older and Image, like Spawn hit me and Image books. So I was like, I want to do this. Like I want to create these stories. And after school, life happens. Just lived life for a long time, and then I finally came back to it. I picked up the pencil one day and started drawing, and I was like, I don't have it anymore. Like I can't draw, the way I used to, but I can write. I was like, so let me write a book and let me see if I can get other people involved into it and see if we can make something. And my fiance, or my girlfriend at the time, she told me, she's like, just do it. Every time we would go to a comic convention, I'm like, man, one day I want to be on the other side of that table. She's like, well, do it. Next year we're here. And that happened 3, 4, 5 years in a row. And then one day I was just like, that's it. I'm going. The next year we're doing this. And
that's awesome.
That's when the script for Rumble King started happening and coming together. And then it's all been downhill since then.
That's awesome. And speaking of Rumble Kings, great series, big fan. You've got Rumble Kings, you've got Rayna, you've got so many other books that you've released. How did you get some of the ideas for some of this stuff?
Rumble Kings is pretty much just my only attempt, right? I was told, if you're going to do this, this might be your only shot. So do everything you want to do. And I was like, all right, so everything I'm inspired by, we're just throwing in a pot. And that's what Rumble Kings was. Once Rumble Kings came out and it was successful, and we did another one and it was successful, it wasn't gaining the traction that I thought it would. And another creator gave me some horrible advice and said, just make a bunch of different books, put them all out, whichever one hits the biggest, that's the one you focus on. And not coming from a bunch of money, it was kind of the stupidest thing I could have done. So now I've got 4 different series that only have one issue or 2 issues. So, but as far as ideas go, I'm a house of ideas. I've been thinking about what I would do with certain characters since I was little, and some of those ideas stick, or sometimes it's just you're driving down the road and you're like, man, would it be cool if you mix this and this? And that's boom, that's what goes together. And that's usually where I get my ideas from. I do tend to sit down and put some personal stuff into it for myself. Rayna is probably the most personal thing I've written. You probably can't tell. Like, she's a hot heroine who's running around a fantasy world killing things. Like, that doesn't look like me, but there's a lot of me in that, a lot of my story in there. But yeah, a lot of times it's just, man, like, this is a cool idea, I should write it, but at the end of the day, I just write cool stuff that I want to read. A great quote by Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park was, don't make music for anybody else, make it for yourself. And that's stuck with me ever since I heard it. And I applied that to comics. I still sit down and read Rumble Kings #1, and I'm like, man, I can't believe I did this. This is awesome. Even if nobody else likes it, like, I love reading this. I would buy this off the newsstand.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's how it comes together.
And speaking of Rayna, #2 is getting ready to come out, and you had the Kickstarter for that already.
Yep.
It went amazing. You just let me read a sneak copy of it, and it was incredible.
Thank you.
And speaking of Rayna, do you have long-term plans for her? Like, when you first decided to switch from, Rumble Kings talking about basically bounty hunters to switching to, a totally kind of a different genre with Rayna. How did you decide to do such a shift to something so different? And, how, do you have like a limited, well, let's start with that. How did you decide to shift from something like Rumble Kings to Rayna, and how do you shift to like all your different books?
So with Rumble Kings, I wanted to capture that feeling, like that 90s Image Comics feeling that I had when I was the most excited for books.
Yeah.
And I just wanted it to be fun. And as I was writing towards the end of issue 2, the start of issue 3 of Rumble Kings, it started to get darker. like the stories that I was telling, and I didn't want to put that in Rumble Kings.
Yeah.
Like I write as expression, so it's therapeutic for me.
Sure.
And a lot of that stuff started bleeding into that script, and I was like, I can't do this with Rumble Kings. You know, I got to step back for a little bit. So a lot of what I wanted to get out, what I wanted to say, was poured into the Rayna scripts, and Fever to an extent too. But a lot of the like traumas from my youth or what I had been through before, that's all getting worked into Rayna. And you see it more in issue 2. You see it a lot in issue 3. And hopefully that's something that resonates with people. I haven't really heard too much negativity about Rayna. It seems to be pretty much universally loved with everybody who's read it, except like your little nitpicks, you know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you're going to have those regardless.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I'm a professional, so of course I'm going to make mistakes in execution.
Sure.
But as far as the storytelling for Rayna, I wanted to attack it kind of the way Mike Mignola does with Hellboy, where it's not this 100 issue run, right? These are short, contained stories told over the course of her life.
Yeah.
So that's why the first story arc for Rayna, the Bastard Queen, is only 3 issues. And then after that, we'll jump to another 2 or 3 issue arc, and that will be at another point in her life. Could be before, could be after. I have so many stories written for Rayna, but I just like the idea of them coming out in any different type of order. I know some other people are pushing back on that. They're like, no, it's got to be in chronological order. Conan was the same way, the way that it was released in the little minis. So there's definitely Rayna definitely has a long life ahead of her. If the interest is there, we'll keep making those books and getting them out. I know Stan Yak, the artist, is in love with that character, wants to keep writing her. He and I actually have another project coming, and I told him, I was like, hey, you know, if it's okay with you, I'm going to bring in another artist to do Rayna. He's like, no, you're not. He's like, I'm drawing Rayna. So yeah. So I'm like, okay. So she'll definitely be back.
That's cool.
But yeah, I just like the small bite size, and especially at our level where we're crowdfunding these books. You don't want to come out and say, hey, I got 40 issues of Rayna, you know, hope you stick around. So
yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I really enjoy Stan's work. So anytime I get a chance to check some of his stuff out, I definitely take the chance to. And yeah, you can definitely tell in Rayna, you've got some like really like deep, the kind of like anger and like all sorts of like real strong emotions in that one. And I think that's really cool. So I can definitely see, you know, that's definitely a good place to take out some of that really like deep emotional aggression type stuff. And Rumble Kings, I can, you know, that definitely is a much lighter book. So I can see why you needed to find a different avenue for that. Because if you were to put a lot of that anger, it kind of changes into something different. So I get that. And speaking of Rumble Kings, is there more coming for Rumble Kings?
There is. We kind of took a step back from Rumble Kings because we didn't know what was going on with it. Each issue in that first 3 issues has a different artist attached to it.
Yeah.
For different reasons. I had thought that our artist for 3 was going to continue. It doesn't look like he's going to. So instead of doing that, I want to kind of go back to square one, and I might do I don't really want to relaunch it, but we might wait until we can get 2 or 3 issues in the can with one single artist before coming back out with it. Because I really love that story. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
There's so much fun to write those characters. And the artist really like drawing them. So I don't know. It'll happen when it happens. It's probably a couple years down the road at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, you wrapped it up really nice. So I think everything, it's like a nice, complete story. But, you know, like I said, I'm a fan of it. So I'm excited to see more of it if it ever happens. So you can definitely, I'll definitely be there. Awesome. And you mentioned Fever a little bit. I don't know how much you had of a chance to talk about Fever much. How did you get inspired with Fever? Because I've read a little bit of it and it looks incredible and I'm very excited for it. But how did you come up with the idea for Fever?
I'm obsessed with revenge. I'm obsessed with rage, with hatred, with loss. I don't know why. I don't. I'm
Okay.
not.
Okay.
You can ask. You can ask my fiance, my family all the time. Like I don't listen to. I don't like sad music. I don't like happy love songs. This is like I like anger. I don't know why. It's just built into me. And that book, that story is just such a I don't know, like an exercise in vengeance and the blindness that comes with vengeance and with rage. I used to have a terrible anger issue, like really bad, and I've
Okay.
lost a lot of friendships, broken a lot of relationships. And when I worked through that, through whether it's counseling, therapy, support, whatever, I learned that I learned so much about it and how selfish it is. And I was still grabbing onto that vengeance. Like if somebody slights me, I'd hold a grudge for the longest time and I had no idea why. It's something I struggle
Gotcha.
with every day. And I was like, how can
Yeah.
I get this out and express this? So that story just I think I just finished watching the first season of the Netflix Punisher series. And I was like,
Okay.
man, they did a really good job of that
Yeah.
from like a service person's point of view, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, how would a civilian do that? How would I feel if I was in that situation? And the first thing that came to mind was obviously if I lost my wife or my loved one, how would
Yeah.
that affect me? But then I also have all these deep seated like family issues, like parental issues in me from when my childhood, and it
Yeah.
just all dumped into this screenplay that I wrote. And I didn't even mean to write a screenplay. And I'm like, okay, I'm an indie comics guy. I put out like 4 or 5 books. I'm like, I can't write a screenplay. Let me make this a comic series. And it just flowed and it came out and I'm very passionate about that story. Like it's a crazy little cyberpunk revenge story, but there's so much of me in that book. And it's kind of like the other side of the coin to Rayna, where
Okay.
it's an exercise in PTSD, so to speak, but on two different emotions. It's weird, but the art team on it is crushing it right now. Like it's like Rain put on a funny sidekick, and there's gags and stuff like that. So and big over the top action. I wish I would have shown you some of the new artwork we've got. It's amazing. So, but yeah, Fever's good. I love Fever. I'm so excited for it to be coming out finally.
Yeah, me too. I mean, just when you shared the original promotional images for it, I'm really into like the cyberpunk too. So just seeing all the cool art from it, I was
Yeah,
hooked, man. It's great. So you always
yeah.
end up with like the greatest art teams, and you're an incredible writer. So I'm really excited to see more of that stuff.
Thank
Um,
you. Well, and you have to elevate your art with each time you come out with each
yeah,
new artist. And of course, at our level, nobody's coming to pick up a book based on my writing. Like I'm
right.
not kidding myself. So get the best artists I can on these books, and boom, people are picking it up. Then they fall in love with the story. I think we had I don't remember, was Fever out yet? Had we crowdfunded it yet or not? And we had already had a deal with a publisher.
Oh wow.
So just based on the artwork and the images and the first little bit of story, I mean, obviously that's fallen through by now, but it was, yeah, like you said, the artwork was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think the artwork that we have now with the new team is even better. So this
Yeah,
book's
those
really gonna knock some people's socks off.
those images you showed from the second part in your email
Yeah,
recently are incredible. And going back to what you talked about listening to angry music, like I get that. Most of the music I listen to, people would say is very angry. I'm guessing you and
yep,
I probably listen to a lot of the same stuff. I mean, we're
I
both
bet.
similar age, and that has nothing to do with it. But we both grew up, with the same kind of influence and stuff. And really, with that
Yep.
angry music, most people just hear the angry, like, why do you listen to that? It's so, but if you really listen to it, it just sounds angry. There's some real deep stuff in there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was at work the other day and I was listening to Slipknot, and
Yeah.
I was in the office all by myself and I didn't realize somebody had walked in. Like, oh, you don't have to turn your music off. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, this will scare you normal folks.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I've been there
yeah,
too. For
yep,
sure.
yep,
Yep, for sure.
yep. And even
All
with the
right.
music, the music inspires a lot of the writing as well.
Yeah.
So I go on Spotify and I make a Spotify playlist of everything that inspires the story I'm writing or music that I think, hey, if this had a soundtrack, or what would be in the trailer for this if it was a movie. And I just make this big playlist and I just put it on loop when I'm writing. It's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. I know I have a lot of writer friends that have offered that that advice, or will say, if you write or if you listen to music in the genre of what you're writing or something in the same vein, that definitely helps. I know um I've actively participated in the National Novel Writing Contest every November, and one year I wrote basically a story that was kind of like Batman, but instead of bats, it was pirates. Um,
Nice.
and I listened to a lot of like Batman the Animated Series and Batman OG soundtrack, and that definitely made a difference for sure. So yeah, music definitely can help with that kind of thing.
The new Batman soundtrack from the sparkly Batman, that
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack is amazing. When I was writing Rayna 3, I had that on in the background. It was that and just whatever Trent Reznor was cooking up at the time,
Oh wow,
music scores, and it was I was like, oh, this is amazing.
that's awesome. All right, well, the real reason we're here now that we've kind of got some of your background is we want to talk about your new stuff. Hellbound is coming next week on the 6th, I think you said.
Yes,
Very
the
it looks
sixth. Yep.
it looks awesome. I'm very excited for it. Let's talk about Hellbound. How'd you come up with the idea for Hellbound?
Oh man, I like I said, image kid, obviously.
Sure.
I miss those big giant guys.
Yeah, man.
From like Wildcats, there was Maul, Youngblood
Yep.
had Badrock,
Mhm.
Pitt, Creech, the 10th, the Max, all those guys.
Yeah.
Nobody draws those guys anymore. Nobody's writing books with those guys in there anymore. Everything's realistic. It's got to be like the Dark Knight. It's got to be like the MCU. Um, and every now and then you'll see somebody draw one of those big guys, and everybody flips out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
um, I saw a good buddy of mine, Seth DeMoose, drew what did he draw? But he drew a big guy. Was it Badrock? I think he drew, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. And everybody's flipping out for it. Everybody loved it for his Rob Liefeld Inktober he did last year. And I'm like, man, everybody loves these. Like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna do this. Like, we're just gonna do a big, angry, smash everything, just heavy metal comic book. And the space opened up in my schedule. I'm like, we're doing this. So I I'm big on the video game Doom Eternal.
Okay.
I loaded up the soundtrack for those and I just blasted it and I just sat down at the laptop and wrote the story. It's
Nice.
it's not Watchmen, it's not Dark Knight Returns. It's it's a heavy metal concert, basically what it is. So,
Nice.
but it's awesome. I'm excited for it, and it seems like a lot of people are excited for it as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just earlier today I was talking with Fishley and I was telling him, with he's got a new character coming out, Ka the Cro-Magnon. He's a big barbarian that's like half crow. It looks amazing. I told him I also
Yeah.
have an affinity for those bigger guys like that. So
Yep.
though, as soon as I see a comic coming with a big guy like that, and my dad, he was always big into guys like that too, and I think maybe he just passed it down. I don't know, but just those big guys that are larger than life that just smash stuff. That's
Yep.
very similar in the vein of like the Hulk and the Thing. Yeah,
Yep.
those characters are a ton of fun. So
Well,
I'm very excited.
and it can't just be me, because if you look around the internet right now, around like our Facebook area,
Yeah,
there's got to be about half a dozen guys who have these big, massive guys. You
yeah,
know, um, I've seen what, 4 or 5 of them, and I'm like, dude, this is so awesome. The big men are making a comeback. Like, this
yeah.
is awesome. So
I mean, plus, I
I'm
mean,
excited. I think. Go ahead.
oh, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think this year, next year is gonna be big for those characters. I mean, there's comics have been missing them. Everybody's been trying to
Yeah,
replicate what the MCU is doing or the big two. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Like, we're gonna do superhero books, but let's move it back over here. There's a lot of people who miss those Image days and those Extreme Studios days, and it feels like our generation or our group, our age group, are hell bent on bringing those guys back.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a reason that, like, the Hulk and the Thing and characters like that are still, relevant now. I mean, clearly there's a fan base out there for them. And so, yeah, having all of these, there's a lot of characters, like you said, that are realistic and they're pretty normal looking.
Yep.
You do see quite a lack of, there are a lot of cookie cutter characters. You don't see a lot of those big guys anymore, and that's cool. And usually, if you do see a big guy, he's a background character. He's more of like the dumb muscle, the enforcer. Which I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, nothing at all.
Right.
But you don't see those guys as the centerpiece of a story that much anymore. So it is nice to see that coming back. So that's very cool that you're bringing that back, or you're helping usher in this wave of big guys. So that's very cool.
Well, and on top of that, I don't have a character that I can just cross over with anybody.
Yeah.
Most of my books are pretty self-contained.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I could put this guy in anybody else's comic. I don't have to explain it or write it out. A writer and myself teamed up a few years ago. We wanted to do a Rumble Kings crossover with his book. And I don't want to say who it was because we might do it, we might not do it. But we had to really find some crazy out there ways to bring these two self-contained groups of people together. And I was like, you know what? I want a character where if, somebody says, hey, Ryan, do you want to do a crossover? I don't have to explain it away. I can just be like, hey, this guy popped out of a portal to hell. Here he is. Like, let's team him up or something.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that kind of character is cool because, there's lots of, not even just indie guys out there, but there's lots of comic creators out there. So that's the single standalone stories are fun, but if you get a chance to cross people over into other people's stories, that's always exciting to see how one character from over here that who is a certain way, and you see another character who's complete polar opposite, seeing them cross over it's always fun. So that's cool that can happen.
And I'm jumping full head into that too. For this campaign that launches on the 6th, I'm actually me and another creator, I'll announce that soon. But me and another creator teamed up. He's another guy who's got a big, muscly guy, and we're doing a crossover promotion. So there will be a way for his fans to get exposed to my characters and my character to get exposed to, and vice versa. But we're offering up this big print that the art team for Hellbound is drawn up, and it's oh my god, the artwork is insane. So it's not finished yet. So I don't want to announce it yet, but it's amazing. And I have 2 other creators that I've reached out to, indie guys, who we're going to do similar things, do like crossover prints and promotions. And it's so much fun seeing the artwork come in for those. I'm like, man, awesome. I could never do this with Rayna. I can never do this with Fever. But with this guy from Hellbound, oh my god, it's exciting. It reminds me of those Image days again. Yeah. Where they would just cross people over for there's no story. You just crossed over and you're just fighting bad guys. So
yeah, I mean, and it's nice to have a build-up story too as to why there's a crossover, but it's kind of like the old days of ECW wrestling where you don't need a story, or even New Japan wrestling. You don't need a story. You just take 2 guys that are similar in size or stature or similar in some way. Or you don't even need to be similar. You just take 2 guys and throw them out there. Say, "Okay, go do something. Go fight. Go, save the world. Go destroy whatever you're gonna do." Just you don't always need a story, and that's awesome. I know Daniel Calvin has Night Wrath, another big dude. I think that'd be kind of cool to see Night Wrath and Hellbound kind of go together. That'd be cool. So what can you tell us? So you've told us how you came up with the idea for Hellbound. Can you tell us anything about Hellbound? Anything about his background? Anything about?
Oh, definitely.
Story? Yeah,
definitely. It's not a secret. There's no spoilers. It's 100% adrenaline fueled, pedal to the metal, heavy metal. It's all it is. It's destruction. It's the story of Ash Navarro. He's a young troubled youth who is on the run from the law. He ends up stumbling upon the satanic cult in the sewers of Detroit. If you didn't know, Detroit has sewers. He ends up, as they're trying to summon a demon to bring around the apocalypse, as they do. he ends up getting caught in the middle of that and merging with this demon, and boom, he becomes this giant Hellbound character. And then it's just destruction from there on out. Um, it's what's the word? Disaster porn is what it is.
Oh wow.
A
Okay.
lot of double page spreads. Yeah, a lot of double page spreads, a lot of big splash pages. Just our artist William Reyes is working his ass off. I feel so he's gonna need a pay raise. Definitely.
Oh
The
man.
work he's putting in on these pages.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, it's just fun. You know, I've got a great art team, and I want them to show off. You know, we have plenty of books where people standing around pushing their theme. This is just destruction. This is just fun. It's popcorn. It's heavy metal. It's a book I want to be able to pick up over and over and over again and read. You know, it's a big blockbuster movie basically.
Yeah.
With some amazing artwork. It's so good.
That's awesome. And I know I've seen a little bit of the artwork you've sent me, and it looks incredible.
Yeah.
So, and then yeah, no spoilers for me either. But yeah, they're so good. I'm so excited. So with Hellbound, do you have like a limited story, like a limited series in mind? Do you have something kind of, you know, long drawn out? What are your plans for the future of Hellbound?
So it's 3 issue story arc.
Okay.
I believe firmly in 3 issues for indie comics. It's good. It's quick. You can get them out there, get them bundled up.
Sure.
I want to say it's like 80 pages total.
Okay.
But yeah, 3 issues, and then I have all the scripts written. There's a nice cliffhanger ending. So if we want to do more after that, we could totally do more. I know William and I have been talking about what we want to do. This whole team for Hellbound really wants to keep working together. So we just have to decide if we want to do more Hellbound after this, or if we want to jump onto another project that we've been kicking around. So I guess it all depends on how successful Hellbound is.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I am going all in on this though. I mean, the image thing, I keep going back to the image thing because that was my exciting time in comics, right?
Yeah.
And a big part of that also was McFarlane toys. So I'm like, man, I wish I could get a toy of Ash from Hellbound made. And the more I looked into it, I was like, man, I don't want to get an action figure that's gonna sit in a box on the wall. I want a statue made.
Yeah.
So now we're looking into getting these big tabletop statues of Hellbound made. Like, I don't see any of those big guys out there like that for collectibles. So we're looking into that right now. We may do a motion comic as well once the 3rd issue comes out. So we'll be, if it's very successful, that'll be our next project, I believe. We'll be getting the motion comic done.
Nice. So you had said for the first 3 issues it's 80 pages. Is it 80 pages for all 3 issues, or is it 80 per issue?
Oh God, no. No, it's so you're 20, is it 22 or 24 pages for the first issue?
Something like that.
It's 28 pages for the second issue, and then 30 to 32 pages for the last issue.
Okay.
So
the
we
last
might
couple
go
are going to be bigger.
Right. We might go a little bit bigger once William starts digging into the art. We might blow up some of the scenes a little bit more.
Okay.
So one page might become a double page spread or something like that. And also another thing that we're offering that I started doing with Rayna was for stretch goals for Kickstarter campaigns. I started offering little 4 and 5 page short stories as stretch goals. So once we find, hey, if we hit like this goal over here, you know, boom. So we might have a couple short stories once we collect it all into a trade as well. So,
oh, nice. That's cool. Speaking of stretch goals, do you have anything like that you are ready to announce yet for Hellbound? If you're not ready yet, it's okay.
I do, but I'm hesitant about announcing stuff like that because if we announce it and then something, either we don't hit that goal or say I have an artist attached to that and that artist backs out, then there's something that I can't deliver.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say
have some? Well,
you do have some planned?
Oh yeah, we have. Oh, I have plenty planned.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So No, it's I have the graphics made for it and everything. It's just making sure that we hit it. So basically,
Gotcha. Okay,
once you
that's fair.
fund, you're like, hey, cool. Then your first stretch goal, I think it's a big print, like an exclusive print. You can only get this on Kickstarter. And then obviously there's the short stories we're gonna do, but the art teams I'm keeping under wraps until we unlock that goal. So, but
That's
there's
fair.
some really good art teams attached.
Fantastic. All right. Well, is there any other books that you want to do that you haven't done yet? What do you have? What do you have coming up? You know, beyond Hellbound that you're ready to talk about?
So Hellbound will take up the rest of the year. Um,
Okay.
if we end up overfunding, we're gonna just keep doing Hellbound
Okay.
for the full 3 issues.
Hmm.
The art team's not stopping. It's not a thing where we did 22 issues and then we're gonna wait till the second Kickstarter. We're just going because I want to get it all done and get it out soon.
Sure.
Rayna wrapped with 3 that'll launch this summer, and then Fever. We got Fever finishing up this summer, so that's the rest of my year planned out. Those 3 books. The beginning of the year, whatever project um, the Hellbound team decides to do next, we'll begin production then. Um, Again, it might be Hellbound, it might be this crazy big story I've got planned. Um, it all depends on how successful Hellbound is, but
Okay.
it's a longer story. It's 12 issues,
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
that is meant to be. Yeah, that is one that we're in talks with a publisher with right now, but
Oh wow.
they want to see. Yeah, so hopefully we can bypass the crowdfunding and go straight into the publishing.
That'd be cool.
So that would be my next couple of years, easy. And then I have another like post-apocalyptic robot story, love story kind of thing that um might start in December
Okay.
pre-production, but it depends on the artist availability. But other than that, it's wrapping up these stories I've got right now this year before diving into anything new.
Fair enough. All right. Well, final thoughts. What's some advice you'd give to an up and coming creator or a creator that's maybe wanting to do something but just too afraid to get started? What would your advice be?
Just get started. Just do it. Um, Everybody will tell you the same thing. Just do it. It's going to be bad. You're going to hate it, or you might love it, but just do it. Um, I was I was on the pot for so long about making a comic book, and I was afraid it was going to suck. And
Yeah.
then I just did it. People got sick of hearing me talk about one day I'm going to do this, one day I'm going to do that. I just did it, and that was Rumble King. Um, People liked it. There's flaws. There's plenty of flaws in that book, but I made it. And at the end of the day, I can look at it and say, man, this is awesome. I made this. You know, if it failed, I still had it. I can still
Yeah.
say I made this. But in my case, um, there's a following for it, and that following followed me to the next book and the next book, and it just kept growing. So, you know, at the end of the day, don't beat yourself up. Don't be scared. Just do it. You know, if you make it and you hate it, at least you made it. You know.
Yeah. And you can't get better unless you get started, right?
Exactly.
You can't
Exactly.
you
And
can't
yeah,
fix it if it doesn't exist.
yeah. And the other thing I would say is share it with your peers. It can. I've held on to scripts because I didn't wear it because I was afraid of it. And then when I got to the art, I realized, oh, this is bad. You know, I would share it with friends or fellow creators, and they'd be like, oh, this is what I would have changed. This is what you should try. That helps. You know,
Yeah.
and not only does it help you get better, but it keeps you inspired. You know, you don't have to give away all your secrets, but just talking with fellow creators just gets you really inspired. So
Yeah, just bouncing little things off here and there off of fellow creators. That definitely, I know if I've got, you know, an idea for a story, it definitely helps. You know, it's nice to do it by yourself if you think this idea is really cool, but it helps to get, you know,
yeah,
outside influence, you know, because maybe what you think is cool maybe just might not work for everybody else, or maybe, you
right,
know, you'll think of something you never thought of before, just getting that second set of eyes. So
yeah,
that's good advice.
yeah. And nobody's
Cool.
gonna steal your idea, you know. And if they do steal your idea, then you know, fuck them. But just share
Exactly.
it. Just get
Not
out there,
very
get
good friends
inspired,
anyway.
you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, let's give you a chance to plug yourself. What do you want to plug?
Oh, Hellbound. Um, you find me on all social media at Skeletal Press. Click on that Hellbound pre-order sign up and just get ready for a wild ride. Hellbound's gonna be awesome.
Awesome. And yeah, we're definitely going to be here to help you promote that, and any other future project, just let us know. We'd love to help out any creators. So yeah, just let me know.
Definitely.
We'll get you back here another show. We'll get you something on the website. We'll definitely help you out.
Awesome. I
Speaking of,
appreciate it.
yeah, and speaking of the website's Geek Network is the website. Geek-network.com. You can find Geek Network on Twitter and Instagram at GeeksAZ. And you can also find us on Facebook at Geek Network. Myself, I am CD is Weird on Instagram. The music for the show is from Polygon Horizon. He's my friend Chris. He's a great artist. You should check him out on Bandcamp. The music's incredible. And the logos, the Feel by Weird logo by itself is by my friend Chris Chandler, who's also a comic creator. You can find him at Chandler Doma on Instagram and Twitter. And the Feel by Weird logo with my face on it is by my friend Mike Belcher, another comic creator. You can find him at Mike W. Belcher 1 on Twitter and at Mike W. _ Belcher on Instagram. And remember, everybody, remember, kids, to embrace the things that feel you're weird and always geek responsibly. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on today.
Thank you.